Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Neha. I make videos on tech and my life in the UK. Today's video is for any front-end developer who wants to upskill, who wants to learn AWS or cloud, or want to see that how they can integrate their front-end application with AWS. You can take this as a beginner step or the first step of introduction to your AWS or backend front-end integration hands-on. So what we are going to build. So in front of you, this is an one-page application made in ReactJS. Our only goal is when someone will enter their email ID here, on click of the submit, this email ID should go and save in AWS DynamoDB. This is the only task we are going to do and learn how to do it. This is a very good example for any beginner one to understand AWS, to understand front-end and AWS integration. So in today's video, I'm going to show you that how you are going to do this work. Plus, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of the approach which I'm going to share, as well as I'm going to share the alternatives to this approach. Okay, so now the first step is to go in our TL draw or whiteboard application and understand two things. The first thing is how the communication of front-end and back-end is going to happen, how the design of the application would be. When I say design, it doesn't mean that how the look and feel, but basically how our front-end and back-end is going to communicate to each other and what are the steps we have to do. So this is a very small application, so there might be not much about design, system design, but you will start getting an idea. So in my front end in my whiteboard application, this is my front end and this is my back end. So let's write front end and this is my AWS. Okay, now this AWS is basically on the cloud, so it's not like I'm gonna have something physically on my system like we have our ReactJS code. We are not going to have AWS like that, or we are not going to have a whole DB installed on our local machine and all that. We are not going to do that. This is all cloud. So how we are going to communicate our front end to our AWS, or how we are going to communicate to our front end to our AWS account, that's what we are going to discuss. So whenever there would be any front end work, data capturing, it should go and save in our AWS, but it should not save in like AWS. We are gonna save it in DynamoDB. So this is the service which we are gonna use, and why it is important. The reason is AWS is a pool of lot of services. So instead of giving the whole access of the AWS, we are only saying our front-end application will only talk to our DynamoDB. So this is the first rule of cloud, that whenever you are talking about the integration or access, you will be giving the least access. Means that only that particular service or that particular action access should the application should have. So we are talking about here DynamoDB. But how we are going to give the permission? Again, are we going to share our credentials with our front-end application of AWS? No, we are not going to do that. So how this is going to happen? So this is going to happen with another service of our AWS, which we call it IAM. So what we are going to do is we are going to have IAM service. This service is going to give the access of our DynamoDB to our front-end application through code. So what we are going to do here is we are going to create a user. That user will hold the permissions or the policy to access DynamoDB. Now, what kind of access you want? You just want read, write, or full? That we are going to decide here to that user. And only through that user, our front-end application can communicate to our DynamoDB. So what is going to happen here is that this IAM service is going to help in the communication. So if I have to write everything in the steps, that what are the steps we are going to do? So the first step is in AWS, definitely create your AWS account. So if you don't have an AWS account, please have it. Don't be scared that it will cost you. It is not going to cost you unless and until you are not going to use services. For a year, you will have some free credits. Some services will be free for you. So please go ahead and create an AWS account. If you are not gonna use anything, it is not gonna bill anything on your credit card. And if you start using anything, start cleaning up resource, which I will talk at the end of this video, that how you are gonna do that. For the sake of this video, I would say create an account, stick till the end, that how to clean up your resources so that you won't be charged for anything. Okay, so the first thing is done. Now the second thing is we are gonna go in our IAM service and we are gonna do few things. First, we are gonna create a user. Once we will create a user, we need to assign permissions. So the permissions would be here DynamoDB. That's what we are gonna do. And the most important thing, the last part, is getting the access key and secret ID. Now what is this? As I told you that this user is gonna be responsible for the communication. Again, how we will get to know that which user this is? We are gonna know by this access key and secret ID. So I will show you in hands-on how to create it, how to save it. These are the things which we need to take care of. And then what we are gonna do is the last part, we are gonna go to DynamoDB and we are gonna create a table there and our partition key. Now partition key here, because our application is very small, we are just creating email ID. So this email will be the partition key here. So we don't need to do much here. So that's why I said this is a very beautiful example for a beginner to how to start with AWS, how to do the front end and back end integration. This is a very beautiful example. And once we have this, we need to keep a note of region, in which region we are creating DynamoDB, and table name. So this is what we have to do it here, as well as we have to keep the note of access key and ID, and then region and table name. So this is what we are gonna do at the front AWS. Now let's talk about front end, what we have to do. So our ReactJS code is already there. So we need to install AWS SDK. And then we need to set the configuration with our DynamoDB client. And then all we need to do is use put method to send the data from our front end to back end. So these are the steps we are gonna do to achieve this. So we are gonna first start with our AWS console side, and then we will go to the front end. So now for the console side, the first thing is create your AWS account. So I'm already logged into my AWS account. This is how it looked. The front end, the landing page could be different based on if you are a first time user, it might be very different. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a user. So I will search on the top IAM. This is the service name. I will go here, click on this. On the left navigation, there is a user. I will click here. Then you will see this create user. Click here and give a name to your username. So I will give sign up page YouTube. Okay, I will say next, and permission, I will select attach policy directly. Now I want to give the DynamoDB access. So let me just, so I want to give a full access here. Now I will select this. This orange box means these are AWS managed. We can create our own also. Right now we are sticking to it. Next, review it. Everything is good. Yes, create the user. Once the user is created, you will be redirected to the dashboard. Find the newly created user. Click on it. On the top, you will see create access key. This is the most important step. Click here. Now we have the use cases, that which one we want to do. We are gonna do command line interface, CLI. What it will do is you can plan to use this access key to enable the AWS CLI to access your AWS account. So from our CLI, it can access it. So next, I need to do confirmation. Next, this is optional. If you want to add a tag, you can. I'm not. Now this is the most important page. If you will read this, it says if you lose or forget your secret access key, you cannot retrieve it. Instead, create a new access key and make the old key inactive. So this is very important. So that's why copy this somewhere. That's what I am doing right now. I'm just copy pasting it, and I will copy this also, and I will also copy the name of my user. Okay, so this is done. I will say done. It will give me a pop-up because I haven't downloaded, but I already copied it. So continue. I will delete this credit user after this video. So please don't try to use it with my access key when we will reach to the code. Okay, so let's go to our whiteboard. First step is done. Second step is done. Now the third step, DynamoDB. So let's go on the top search bar, search for DynamoDB service. Click on the left side, you have tables. Click here. Now go and click on create table, and I will say sign up YouTube. And the partition key is, instead of sign up page YouTube, let me put it like this, and it is email. Perfect. Rest I will leave default, and I will do create table. It will take some time, but what you need to do is copy the name and remember the region. So region is always on the top. If you will click here, it is US East 1. So keep a note of this. Okay, so let's go back here. Everything is done. We have access key ID, we have region, we have table name. All good. So our console work is done. Now let's come to our front end. And the first step we need to do is install AWS SDK. So let's start searching SDK npm. This is the one. Copy this. Go to our React code. I will give this link of the repo in the description box so you can have it. Before I do the installation, let me give you a quick walkthrough. This is a Create React app. In the components, I have few components: button, error, header, input, loader, success. Error, header, loader, success, you can understand by the name. Success message, loading, error message, and this is header. Button and input, we have button and input for that. Landing page is where all the work is happening. So this is our form. What I am doing is on change. I'm using an input. I'm using ref here. If you doesn't know what is ref, how it works, I made a video on that. I will put it in the description box. You can check. So whenever the submit button click will happen, this button click will happen, this method will be run. It will take the value of the input and save it in a variable. This value we can save in the use state also. I haven't done that because here we will send this data to our DynamoDB. So we are gonna come here in this submit form method and we are gonna write that logic. So now let's go in our terminal and let's install SDK. So let's wait for some time. Let's let it be installed. Okay, so the installation is done. Now in our landing page, what we are going to do is we are going to import our SDK. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do import star as AWS from AWS SDK. We can do only DynamoDB also. So it depends upon the way you want to do. Both are fine. Now the next thing we need to do is the configuration. This is where the communication will happen. So we will write AWS config update, and this is how it will get to know. So first thing is we need to tell the region, in which region our table is created. This is US East 1. So first thing is this. Then we need to tell an endpoint. Now what is this endpoint? This is endpoint is basically which service you are trying to reach. So this is DynamoDB. In which region? It is in US East 1. So basically this endpoint is created with service name, region, and then dot Amazon AWS.com. Okay. Now the next thing is, so we have put the region, we have put the endpoint. Now we need to do the access key ID, and the next we need to do this secret access. I think I'm doing a typo. Let me retry. Secret access key. So let me paste the value, copy the value here. So this is my ID. Again, I will delete this user. So please do not try to use this key after this video. I will delete it. Okay, so this is done. So this is our configuration. Now this configuration is setting, we are setting at the AWS level. Now we need the DynamoDB. So what we are going to do is we are going to say const db client equals to new AWS dot DynamoDB dot document client. And now what we are going to do is here we are going to come, and the first thing we need to do is we need to make the parameters that in our database the what value will go, how that value is gonna go, that is what we are gonna create. So we are gonna say let params, and this is gonna be an object. The first thing we need to do is uppercase table name. This is camel case. What is the name of our table? It is Signup page YT. Then it expect an item. This item is basically what keys you want. So our key is email and the value is underscore email. So this will come here. Now this is the parameter which we are gonna use in our send in our DynamoDB. How we are gonna do? We are gonna use DB client, and to send our data we use put method. And in this we are gonna have this params and then function. We will have error data, and if there would be a error we are gonna do console dot error, else we can say console dot log success. There is a typo. Let's see what is this. This is not a fat arrow function, my bad. So that's it. Let's compile it and see if everything is working. No error. Let's go back here, refresh it. I will open my network and I will add here thor@avengers.com. Submit. This is a 200 response. Perfect. You can see item, email, thor@avengers.com. Table name is this. Let's see success. This means everything is good. Let's go to our table. We should be able to see our email ID here. So we will click on explore table items, and yes, we do have our item here. So you can see that how straightforward it is to integrate our AWS to our front-end application. Now let's talk about the pros and cons. Obviously the good side is it's very easy to integrate. All you need to do is just install SDK, do this configuration, and just start doing what you want to do. The downside, and which is the biggest negative, and I would say don't do this approach, is our exposure of secret keys, access ID, and key. Because this is a front-end application, ReactJS, these access key and ID will secret access key and access key will be exposed to everyone. So anyone can use it and do whatever they want to, and we don't want to do that. Security is very important. So anyone who has the access of these, they can get in, they can do whatever they want to do with your database. So this is not a recommended way of doing when you are working on production level application. If it is your own local side projects but you are not hosting anywhere, it's fine. So what else we can do? There are two other ways through which we can do. The first thing is using AWS Amplify, where we can use the amplify and put everything as environment variables there. Not environment variables, but everything will be taken care by amplify. So all these things will be very safe and secure. Then another approach is Lambda or Node.js approach, where you will move this code to the environment variables so that no one will have the access of this, and these things will remain at the server side. I would say if you are looking for a production level solution, go with the Lambda or Amplify rather than this one. The reason I showed you this so that you know that what are the cons also. And again, I would repeat the same thing. As a beginner, it's a good practice to do this exercise and do your hands-on like this, as this will give you an idea that why this approach is not great. Otherwise, you will end up doing this approach always, and you will never able to understand that why this has a security concern. Okay, I hope this video was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what kind of projects you want to learn, so that I will create more videos. In the upcoming videos, I will create a Amplify video also. I created one Amplify video where I showed you how you install how you deploy a Next.js application in Amplify. I will create more videos on that. Till then, take care. Bye.